This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
First of all, I'm having a lot of fun out here back in the heat, being away from the heat a couple years in Washington State. Coming back to the South, it's hot, but it's awesome, and we're all competing and having a great time.
You guys are kind of getting off scot-free. It's really not that bad out.
Yeah, that's exactly why I said it was fun.
Because it's not 100 degrees.
No. It wasn't 100 degrees, but it was pretty moist out there on those fields. It had rained recently, so it's good.
Oklahoma back on the practice field. We're back in studio. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here for the Soonerscoop.com studios. Monday is over for the Sooners as they get done with practice number 4. We talked to John Mateer today. We talked to Miguel Chavis today, Kip Lewis, as well as a couple other guys we'll get into here throughout. George, welcome back. How are we?
Great. It was. I thought it was a good practice. We got to see some one-on-ones. We broke that down in a different video, but it was great catching up with John Mateer today.
No doubt about it. All right, 9 teams in the coaches' preseason poll that came out today. Oklahoma is not one of those. First time since, I guess it's been 25 years since Oklahoma was not in the preseason top 25. 9 teams from the SEC. Texas 1, Georgia 4, Bama 8, LSU 9, South Carolina 13, Ole Miss 15, Florida 17, Tennessee 18, and A&M 21.
So how many of those does Oklahoma play?
They play Texas, they play Bama, they play LSU, they play South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. So 6 of them, 6 of the 9.
Wow. Should be fun.
Good luck. No, it's any problems with that? I get it. It doesn't really bother me.
They went 6 and 7 last year.
Sure.
I mean, I think that any ranking is valid at this point. And if you want to put them in the top 25 because of what they did in the offseason, I think you're also justified.
And
so
if you have an opinion on that, put it in the comments or open a Facebook
OU's got a lot to prove this year.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it, including John Mateer. Let's start there. We talked to John Mateer, but before we get to him, let us tell you about our good friends over at Homefield. Homefield back in action this year. The premium collegiate apparel brand based out of Indianapolis, coming up on August 8th, into this week. The game boxes that are coming out. I know that we got a couple of those last year. You got one for one as well. The campus kickoff. All you got to do is can't miss kickoff from homefieldapparel.com. That is Homefield Apparel. They've been with us. They were here for the over the course of last year during the season. Had a really good time over at the Standard. You can get your Oklahoma gear over there, though. The football boxes, the coaches' jackets, the bomber jackets, which I know it's hard to think about right now, being it so hot outside. But they have the hats as well as the crew necks. And I know that you, George, got your entire family a bunch of stuff from Homefield, as did I last year.
Yeah, it was great. And I am internally laughing at Carrie trying to find Oklahoma on here, but they do have a lot of really good stuff. As you can see, Carrie has found the page. Their hats are pretty sweet. I love the bomber jackets and the different vintage shirts that they've got on there.
It's important to get ready for the season. Only got we were talking about it earlier, but only got a couple more Saturdays without Oklahoma football in your life. So go visit homefieldapparel.com and get all of your OU needs. Jacket. Yeah, the vintage script bomber jacket is
that's awesome.
Those are old school.
Yeah,
used to have one wore around at the elementary school back in the day. In fact, if you see Ed Radosevich, I think he's probably still wears his bomber jacket, but you can go get a new one today from homefieldapparel.com. All right, we did talk to John Mateer today. What did I try to put on that? Matero? That'd be interesting. He'd probably play baseball. Let's go into that because it was the first time we had talked to John, obviously, since the beginning of preseason practice. We talked to him, down in Atlanta at SEC Media today. But now he's been out on the field with guys. He's been able to kind of get it in with these guys for 4 practices now.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's going well. I know that you and I have talked to folks that are out at practice, and the offense is having not just having its way. I think the defense is having its way as well on certain days, but the offense has days where it's performing extremely well. I think Mateer's a big reason for that. I think this offensive system is obviously helping a lot of guys, but it's clear talking to John, he feels like this team has a lot of dudes. Whether it's at receiver with some of the guys that have stood out, Zion Kearney, Keontez Lewis, we'll hear from him later. Jaden Ott, who we heard from, last week. They think he's going to be a difference maker. The offensive line, he feels like it's coming together. So it was good to kind of catch up with him and see how he feels. Obviously, he's going to say everything's good and everything's great, but it does sound like behind the scenes that's actually true, and that Mateer's having a really good camp, and you can just kind of see him continuing to grow as that leader that Oklahoma really needs right now.
Here is John Mateer talking about the first 4 practices, as well as Zion Kearney, and finally getting on the field with Jaden Ott.
Yeah, a lot of that install and a lot of walkthroughs in the summer, and then even now, every other day. And guys are staying after with me, and we're walking through a lot of stuff. So we're in a really good spot, and I'm very pleased with how everybody's doing, and everybody's having a lot of fun.
What kind of development have you seen from Zion Kearney just in general? It sounds like he's had a pretty good start.
Yeah, he's really good. He's impressing a lot of people. I mean, you can see his size. Like, he's a young guy, but he looks old. Like, he's built, and he can move. So we're going to get a lot out of him.
John, what do you think of the weapons you have around you, talent-wise?
I mean, they're all real good. Like, I look to this side of the field, I got somebody to go to. I look here, I look in front of me, I look beside me. It's everywhere. And it's pretty dangerous when you got weapons everywhere. And we all trust each other, and we're going to get to the point where we really, really trust each other. So
You finally got to play with Jaden Ott camp. How's that going? And is that fun?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. He's super competitive. He doesn't like to lose either. He's going. I heard he picked up a block for me, a really good one in our last period, and I appreciate that. I didn't really see it. I wasn't looking, but it's good to know that you're going to have somebody protect you and make it easier for everybody around you. He's a really good player. You got to focus on him.
Jaden Ott, one of the 2 Oklahoma players on Bruce Feldman's freak list for the year 2025 today. Undoubtedly wasn't too much of a surprise when you saw both of those names. Let's talk Keontez Lewis, though. He's a guy that certainly has kind of made his way here through the first portion of Oklahoma's preseason camp into maybe possibly being one of those guys that is going to be a contributor at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, and I've explained it a few times. We didn't hear much about him in the spring, was dealing with a little bit of an injury, but has really spent this summer, I think, working with Mateer, and he's somebody that you look at his career path, he's played at this level. He started his career at UCLA, played at Wisconsin, was pretty productive there, ended up transferring to Southern Illinois. His stats last year at Southern Illinois, and I get it, Southern Illinois, 49 receptions, over 700 yards receiving, 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's production, and that's what you need in that room. He's a veteran, and I think you saw today, especially in the one-on-ones, he can make some competitive catches.
What are those guys that you talked about when we were talking about Jim Nagy in the front office and the way that they operated out of the portal? They needed guys that have gone and done it before on didn't matter
any level.
On a field. I was going to say
Yes,
Division I, but any field. Does sound very good news for Giovanni Gibson as well. But here is Keontez Lewis just kind of talking about his first couple of days of Oklahoma practice, as well as his thoughts on John Mateer.
Fall camp's going pretty good right now. Been off to a good start. We're all just trying to keep stacking days, and as we get close to this first game.
How different is your comfort level because of that?
John he's a great leader. He's a great just mentor out there. So everything that he tells me to do from that standpoint, routes, whatever details, we've been just locked in on that for real.
So have you ever played with a quarterback like that has that type of this moxie out there?
Yeah, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was a dog at UCLA, man. He had that in him too.
How do the two kind of compare from what you know of him and what you've seen with John so far?
They gonna get whatever position you're in on the field. They're gonna try to make something happen. They're gonna try to make a play. They're just playmakers, and that as for a quarterback, that's what you want for a receiver. So
certainly not necessarily a wait and see with Keontez, but he's definitely kind of leaped up, in my opinion, of somebody that maybe from day one he's able to hit the ground running for John Mateer at the wide receiver position.
I think the one thing about him is he's very consistent. That's what I continue to hear. I think that's what the coaching staff really likes about him. I don't think he's going to go out there and make a ton of flashy plays, but you're going to know what you get from him. He kind of reminds me, the way people talk about him, like Geno Lewis. Remember Geno Lewis? Just a solid football player that you could rely on. He was, I think, was he on that 2015 team?
Might have been a little bit younger than that.
Was that? I thought
I
was
want to
on
say
the
he was
2015
a little bit
team.
younger. I can't remember. That was 10 years ago.
I know that's 10 years ago, but he was a solid football player, kind of a third down guy. Look, he's not going to be a burner, I don't think, but he's sure-handed. He's going to run good routes. He's going to find ways to get open. I think that's kind of the type of player that you can get, which when you think back to last year, Oklahoma would take Geno Lewis every single day of the week.
He might have won the Blitnikoff at Oklahoma just by proxy of being on the field and being available. No, you heard Keontez talking about John Mateer, and he's obviously made an impression on just about everybody that's walked through or come and talked to us about him, right, as the quarterback. I thought it was interesting what he had to say today about his relationship with Troy Everett, as well as the offensive line group. And that's somebody that, we've seen them go. They've gone and done their retreats or whatever you want to call it. They've spent a lot of time together. And at the end of the day, I think that means something.
Look, John Mateer knows what happened last year. He did his research. He understands the offensive line wasn't any good a year ago. He knows they battled injuries. He knows they brought in a lot of transfers, had to play some young guys. And so I think that's where a lot of his focus has been. While he spent a ton of time organizing throwing sessions and working on routes with his receivers, I think he's also spent a lot of time bonding with this offensive line, making sure they trust him, making sure they want to protect him, I think is kind of what he said today. And also making sure they understand this offense. He talked about, doing film study and things like that. I think that's really important because last year there seemed to be a lot of confusion at times, and that put Oklahoma in a tough spot. And I think Mateer doesn't want that to happen. And I think that's the sign of a good leader and also a really good quarterback, because the quarterback does have to know, obviously where receivers are going to end up, where running backs are going to be in the flats, all of those things. But he also needs to understand how to check into certain, pass coverages and things like that to make sure that he's not, getting sacked all the time.
Certainly something that I, just thought back to and something we've talked about, but Ben Arbuckle talking about just the veteran presence that he has, and being able to put his line in a good spot. Here is John Mateer talking about his relationship with the offensive line and continued evolution that he feels like it's headed in the right direction.
John, I don't know how much you heard about the offensive line troubles last year, but how have they looked so far to you? I know you probably don't get to see a lot of that until you look at tape, but how do you feel that group is coming together? And what do you do as a quarterback to kind of, give your 2 cents to things at all?
I think I'm a huge part in it, and I do whatever I can to help them out, flipping the protection and just building a relationship. I think it's huge. Not to say this didn't happen last year, but to be around them and to do things for them so they really give everything they have to do behind them. And so I've really tried to put an emphasis on that. I probably could have done a better job here and there. I'm not perfect, and then just learning what they're doing so I can optimize what they call and get them in the right plays and the right run checks and the right – because it's hard for them. I mean, especially with this defense, that we're getting so many different looks, and we will during the season. So if I'm behind, I can see more. If I can see more and help them not have to see as much, then it's going to make them
when you say trying to learn, are you like sitting in on film study with them at all? Or
me and Troy have done it multiple times, and just talking. Like every time we come off the field, if I check something or I should have checked something, he's going to tell me. And I'm fascinated by O-line play. Like honestly, if you sit there and watch it, like those 5 dudes have to be all as one, and to get 5 people to do one thing is very impressive. And I love O-line play. And they're doing a really good job.
Josh McQuistion is going to watch this. He's going to be the Randy Marsh South Park meme sitting in front of his computer with John Mateer talking about offensive line play. 2016 for Geno Lewis.
I was close.
You were close. That, for some reason, that does not feel like that was 10 years ago.
You know why I knew that, or at least that time? Because I was a freshman at OU in 2015. I was living in Headington Hall, and when Geno transferred from Penn State, I ran into him in the elevator. I was like, "You're Geno Lewis. You just transferred here." And we had a conversation and got to kind of know each other. But I was like, it had to have been freshman year.
Great story from George there.
Yeah.
All right. That was a long time ago. Certainly sounds good about OU's offensive line, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be can they do it on the
work
field?
In progress.
Work in progress. Can they do it on the field? Prove yourself each week type of deal. And especially with Michigan coming around in week 2, I think we'll have a better idea of where this thing is at. Let's flip over. Let's go defense. We did talk to Miguel Chavis. We talked to Gentry Williams and Kip Lewis for the first time today. And, if nothing else, it's just good to go back out to practice. And I feel like we're going to do this every time. It was good to go back out there today, and Gentry Williams is still out there.
Every day that goes by that Gentry Williams is healthy is a good day.
Sure.
And, I think for both of these guys, what is it? Are they both now in their 4th year, or is Gentry in his 5th?
Gentry might be 5th, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've been here a while. They understand this defense. And look, they're both going to play huge roles, both going to be starters for Oklahoma this year, barring injury. I think Kip can take another huge leap. It seems like every single year that he's been in Oklahoma, he takes a big step. I expect that again this year. And for Gentry, it's like it always is, staying healthy. And I think being that leader in that room, because that's one thing we continue to hear, and we'll talk to Davon Jordan later this week, and some of those younger corners possibly. But he is a constant voice in that room, and injured or not, you can tell how much he means to that group.
Kip Lewis, obviously, kind of in that same boat as far as taking a little bit of a bigger leadership role. We talked to Gentry about just staying healthy, just his hope to stay healthy this year, what last year was like, as well as Kip Lewis talking about a bigger leadership role this season.
Yeah, it was obviously tough. I think just overall with the whole season, not just me, going through what we went through in SEC, we had high hopes for the team. Didn't go our way, but, we stuck together. And I think at the end, we saw what we can put together as a team this year, and going into that Bama game, we just got to build off of that through this season.
Brent, what are the steps you're doing to try to stay healthy this year?
Just listening to my coaches, listening to Coach Valad, listening to the training staff, Sauce, and taking all the extra precautionary measurements that I need to stay healthy and just taking care of my body, most and foremost.
Has it been tough to trust yourself?
I wouldn't say that. I trust my teammates more than anything. And if they have belief in me to go do out there what I know I can do, then I have to trust myself to be out there and go do that.
Brent talked about you kind of stepped up as a vocal leader even though you were out and not on the field. How important was that for you?
Just doing my role. I'm still on this team regardless if I'm out there with the 11 guys on the field. I'm still a part of this team. I still got to help the guys grow and do my role, and that's just what I was able to do.
Can you tell us anything kind of about the off season and what you guys did as a group to kind of build that rapport and leadership without Danny around being kind of the guy that everybody looked up to?
Danny was like the guy to look up to, but people move on, and so now, I think it was like really just organically happened. It really wasn't like anything forced or anything. We all like to just spend our time together now and up here like every day, and so.
You talk about like film sessions and stuff like that.
Just even like outside of football. We'll hang out all together and we'll just be doing stuff outside of football. We like to go bowling. Like for emphasis, and so just doing fun stuff, just building relationships.
It was disclosed that Sammy Omosigo,
I was just about to say,
I guess he's a bowler.
He's got his own ball, his own shoes.
We need to find out what he's bowling.
We need to do a Scoop HD video with him.
Well, I'm the worst bowler of all time, and I've been on record as saying that I stopped going to bowling alleys when they stopped letting you smoke cigarettes inside. That was kind of my cutoff line.
They stopped letting you do that?
It's been a minute since George has been to a bowling alley, it sounds like. No. That was cool. We'll obviously see how that linebacker group goes. We talked about him a little bit more in depth in the breakdown from this morning's practice video that you can see here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. For the first time in a long time, we talked to Miguel Chavis today. And, I think when you look at the defensive end group, it's obviously extremely talented. He feels like this is a group that could be pretty special at the end of the day.
And it should be, again, the talent, you and I were discussing it in the car. You look out there and you're like, man, they've got some really good talent. Miguel Chavis has done a great job of recruiting that position and also developing.
Sure.
When you think about some of the guys that he's brought in, 5 stars like PJ, Danny Okoye, but then also a guy like R. Mason, I think who was he only a 3 or maybe a 4-star, depending on where you look. And he's obviously developed into one of the best pass rushers in the country. I think somebody like a Taylor Wine is a great, idea of how, Miguel has gone about developing some of these guys. We're going to see a ton of him this year, but it was good to kind of catch up with him and hear his thoughts on this group, because I do think that this is a group. We've talked about the defensive line as a whole, but at defensive end, I think it's the most talented this group has been during his time here at OU.
Certainly in a different spot than where they were when he arrived.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly, over the first couple of years in Norman. But here is Miguel Chavis talking about his defensive end group just as a whole.
Yeah, we're in a different place than when we first got here. We're in every year, by God's grace and recruiting, and then the guys staying, man. Kudos to our guys, staying put. You talk about a guy, R. Mason Thomas, or a PJ, because they're getting hit up all the time. We know what it is. Come on, and 5-star guy with high expectations, and you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders. And in the game, there's no just foolproof plan, and everybody's different. Every guy's different. R. Mason was probably the most talented edge in my room going into his second year. And then he gets ankle injuries, and has him fall camp, and then has him in his first game back in a home game, and And he's out for a long time, and I told y'all our Mason was pretty good. And he was like, well, we'll see. We ain't got no ankles, it's hard to play edge. And then he starts his junior year and was the most productive guy in all SEC and second team. And a guy like PJ, man, he's just stayed put. He's bloomed where he's playing. A guy like Taylor Wine, can't wait for y'all to see him. And a guy like Danny Okoye going to his second year, just is a different player. And all those guys are just named Wyatt Gilmore taking steps. It's just at different spots, And so, to me, it's a testament to them.
We've talked about our Mason Thomas. I think that's knowing what's to be expected. We talked about Taylor Wine here as of late over the last week, just in terms of his development. When he's talking about our Mason Thomas and the ankle injuries, there was one name that came to mind, and it was PJ Adebore.
Yeah, look, he battled those same kind of injuries last year. I'm looking at the snap counts. He played 119 snaps last year, which is actually higher than I anticipated. But I think he may have even played more as a true freshman. So this is a big year for PJ. And it's one of those guys that I feel like you and I, Eddie, we get questions on the board all the time or just talking to fans like, hey, how's PJ doing?
Every day.
Is he going to finally break out?
And it's because of what Miguel Chavis was just talking about. When you come in with the 5 stars alongside your name,
and
you're going to have higher
incredible.
expectations.
I mean, he's been the best looking player on the roster the last, couple years now. So I think this could be a huge year for him. I don't know what's been holding him back. I think last year was somewhat injuries. The year before that, he was a true freshman, and the expectations were maybe just a little too high for him. But there's a huge opportunity for him this year, and it certainly sounds like the coaching staff is excited to see if he takes advantage of it.
I think people are going to like what Miguel Chavis had to say about PJ Adebore.
And I think the expectations are, when you're more highly recruited, there's more outside expectations. But the expectations for all my guys, the standards up here, man. If you play for me and Coach V, and if you play at Oklahoma, I don't care if y'all might have, or the outside world might have less expectations for them, so they give them more grace or time. But for me, it's up here. There's a standard, right? And then the wisdom as a position coach, you don't treat a freshman like you treat a senior. I got a 9-year-old and I got two 5-year-olds. I don't talk to my 5-year-olds like I talk to my 9-year-old. That's crazy. And but he's been just amazing. He's having a really good camp, and I think he's about 265 with a 7'1" wingspan. And but man, he's coming into his own, which I'm really excited to see.
Coming into his own. That's good news on the PJ Adebore front, as well as hearing Miguel Chavis talk about his other prize pupil, maybe a little bit less recruited, but certainly when you hear Brent Venables talk about him, it seems like every time he gets a microphone in front of him, he's talking about Danny Okoye.
Yeah, look, and he only played 9 snaps last year, so he didn't play at all, really.
And you got to remember the jump he's making coming in from NOLA, the homeschool in Tulsa, obviously just being thrown in there into the mix.
And I think for Danny, we all know he's an athletic freak, maybe the best athlete on the team, and he physically looks just amazing out there as well. For him, I think it's a mental thing, right? It's understanding what they're asking him to do, because, if they were saying, hey, just let him go and let him do whatever, he could do that all day,
which wouldn't
right?
be a bad idea.
No, I think he could wreck some ish up, but I don't think that Oklahoma wants to just do that right, just yet. And they have a lot of guys that are super athletic and can play in. But I do think this could be a year where you see Danny in some certain packages. You see him in some certain situations where it's 3rd and long, you let him loose, right? But I think for Danny and hearing Miguel today talk about him just gets you really excited, because I do think once it clicks for him mentally, he's going to be a big-time difference maker.
Even picked up a nickname from Jerry Schmidt from over the summer. Here is Miguel Chavis talking about Danny Okoye.
What's it been like kind of watching Danny Okoye grow up, and what's kind of maybe the next step for him?
Freaking awesome. Coyote. Arr, that's his nickname. He got it. Coach Schmidt gave him the nickname Coyote because I think it's because it sounds like Okoye. I don't know. So I come in the weight room one day and they were going, Coyote! I'm like, who the heck are y'all talking about? They go, Coyote. I'm like, who's that? They go, Danny Okoye, Coyote. I'm like, those don't even sound the same. But he's a madman, man. When he knows what he's doing, he's playing really fast. And just an unbelievable young man, and as handsome and as gifted and as talented and as likable as he is, and as athletic as he is, he's a better person. And it's a joy coaching him. He's going to be a household name here really soon. I mean that.
It's kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting when you're talking about Danny Okoye because it feels like he's been coming along for a while. I know that somebody like Teddy Lehman, even he had been very high on Danny Okoye from the moment he stepped on campus.
He's just a guy that, again, he's just an athletic freak, like I said earlier, and just someone that I want to see on the field more this year, even if it's special teams. Let this guy run down on punt or kickoff or whatever.
Sure.
Because I just think he's going to be a great football player. But it's a fun group, man. That defensive end group, Chavis has done, like I said earlier, just a really good job of bringing in good talent and then developing that talent. And that's why – he has shown, even with a guy like Ethan Downs, like the type of player he ended up becoming for Oklahoma, what R. Mason has done. I mean, he could be a future, NFL first-round pick. To give some of these younger guys some time. Give a PJ some time. Let's see what he does this year. Taylor Wine, obviously, it seems like he's going to play a major role. Danny Okoye, sometimes it doesn't always happen as fast as you want it to. And I think at defensive end, Miguel and that group deserves some patience right now.
Certainly seems to be coming together here for those young guys in that defensive end position room. All right, that's going to do it for a Monday. Practice number 4 in the books for Oklahoma. We'll be back out there on Wednesday. Plenty of coverage on SoonerScoop.com. You've written a couple stories today. Bob wrote a couple stories as well coming out from the media availability, and then we'll get back after it on Wednesday. You can watch both the Sights and Sounds from Friday as well as the Sights and Sounds from Monday morning here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. John Mateer's full interview is here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. You can see Miguel Chavis over on our editorial page for Sooner Scoop on YouTube. George, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Eddie.
All right. This is George. I'm Eddie. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.